Milwaukee Bucks, the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, have let go of Adrian Griffin, and now apparently a familiar name and face is linked to Milwaukee's becoming their next head coach is Doc Rivers. Just before we get into the Sixers talk, what do you guys think of this move by Milwaukee? I mean, how do you think that's going to shape the Eastern Conference as we keep going here?
Interesting. I mean, I hadn't heard anything about Griffin being let go. I do remember when Terry had left early in the year, some form of dispute, but I hadn't heard much. I mean, their team was having some success. Didn't necessarily feel like they were better, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't necessarily feel like they were playing better than maybe last season, or I know defensively they weren't. I mean, they spoke about that themselves. So, but I don't know if that was a Griff thing or just more of a different team with Drew Holiday leaving. I thought a lot of it had to do with Drew Holiday leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting Dame and kind of got Dame so late in the season, as far as, the off season, that it's kind of taking some time. And at the end of the day, I mean, they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. So it's tough. It's interesting. I think, like some things we look at, it's not as black and white. It's some issues, and I think it's some issues from the top, and there's some issues with, in my opinion, I don't know any of this information, but for them to come to this decision, the higher ups and the movers and shakers in that organization had to be in an agreement, or the person who's writing the checks had to just overrule everybody. Like, So we'll see what they do next. We'll see what they do next, because it's no longer on this coach, whatever happens.
Yeah. How do you think Doc would fit with Milwaukee?
I mean, Doc is a guy I believe that can come in the middle of the season and make it work. I do believe that he can come in, and he's coached long enough, and he's very familiar with the players that they have. He'll get the respect from the team. So I do believe that he's a guy, whether he's the best fit, I don't know, but I do believe that he's a guy that can walk in there and kind of get the team and make it more of a smoother transition, I may say.
You can get acclimated pretty quickly.
Yes, I don't necessarily know if that's a long-term move for that team, but I do think it's a good move for a temporary or a move right now in the short term.
Yeah. Man, I totally forgot about Terry stepping down earlier this year. So they've had it's been kind of a rough water season for them.
I don't really know. Like I know all these people personally. I know Griff, I know Terry, but I haven't spoken to any of those guys. Nor would I even speak to them about this.
Yeah.
But I know them both enough for it to go down the way it went down. It was something there.
Yeah.
So it was something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how it impacts them rest of the way here, because, I mean, it's never fun losing a coach mid-season. You never had that happen to your career, Eric?
A coach change?
In mid-season?
Oh, yeah. They the Sixers fired Randy Ayers in the middle of the season. His first year. Very similar situation. The first year Coach Brown left. And Chris Ford who was assistant, took over for the rest of the year. And then that's when they brought in what's his name from Boston, and then I was gone.
Jim O'Brien?
That summer. Yeah, then I was gone that summer. It was my last year in Philly.
Wow. And how does mid-season coaching change kind of impact the team? I mean, obviously positives. There's obviously positives and negatives to that.
I think from our perspective, we weren't playing well, but at the beginning of that season, guys were out. Like, I believe, Allen was out, Aaron was out. Guys missed a lot of games, and we had got Glenn Robertson that year. And Glenn and Randy, they kind of bump heads a little bit. And it was sort of an interesting dynamic because we were playing, and then we were like, it was the first time I was in Philly where we would be in games and we'd be close in games, and all of a sudden it's like winning time, and then they'd be like, well, we want the young guys to get some experience. You're like, what? Like, what do you mean? So when they start talking like that, I was like, okay, well, they into sort of a rebuild thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they fire him. Like, I was confused by that. Like, it was so I don't know if the rebuild of young guys was a everything thing or just a Randy thing. Like, I don't know. Like, it was really weird how, and we lost some of those. We lost some of those games. You know what I'm saying? They playing some of the young guys and Willie and Kyle. I get it, getting those guys experience, but when they start doing it at the end of the games, I was just like, well, I know this is kind of the end for me, because they didn't do it to AI because they know he would flip out on them. Mm-hmm. So they would play all the young guys at AI, basically. And before you know it, Randy was gone. We got no warning, nothing, just fired. Chris Ford's assistant, he took over the rest of the year. And then Chris came in and was a stickler for the rules, putting in these stringent rules that we didn't have before, and he had issues with that. Because I remember I missed a practice for like
Ishkabib's line was long that day, huh?
No. I believe I missed a practice. I believe one of my boys had to go to the doctor, had a seizure or something.
Okay.
Wow. It was it was a serious issue. And I missed the practice, and he told me I wasn't gonna start.
He's by the book, huh?
Yeah, like that.
Was that soon after he took over?
That was when Chris took over. Yeah, when he took over. So it was this big old thing. And remember, at that time I had a starter streak. I had the longest streak in the league.
Man.
And he ended up letting me start.
Oh, he ended up letting you start?
Yeah, I ended up starting. So I kept that streak. I kept it all the way to Cleveland, and my streak lasted until Paul Silas kicked me off the bench in Detroit, and I didn't play the next game. That's how my streak ended.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, that's how my streak ended. Consecutive games played, yeah. Since I had a starter streak and I had a consecutive games play streak. So this streak was after I had broken my ankle and my thigh. My thumb. That's when the streak started.
Wow.
So I basically had played every game since I had came back from my ankle and thumb. And I played every game until that one game in Cleveland.
Man, that's wild.
But so I don't know. It's tough because you got Griffin. You want guys to do well, especially former players. And I do know how long he's had to wait to get an opportunity. And this right here doesn't really set up for him to have another one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's disappointing.
So you got pissed off because he pulled you for he got mad at you for an 8-second violation. Is that right? The Silas? I was trying to read.
Yeah, I just got in the game. Like, he took me out the game, and I'm like, at the end of the day, he could take me in and out, whatever. But he basically said I said something to him that I didn't say.
Oh.
And then he went through all this lead of court and all this just stuff that wasn't necessary. But we patched all that up, and late Paul, he was a great guy. We patched all that up, and there was a lot of things that Paul was telling me at that time that I was a little hard-headed about that really came true as later in my life as I kind of went through life. That particular incident, I'll take blame for whatever I did. I'm not going to blame him for anything because it really didn't matter. But I would say that he at that short time, that year that I played with him, I believe they let Paul go that year too in the middle of the season. So, but he has some insightful things for me that didn't really register for me until like later in my life, later after I didn't play for him. So I don't that relationship right there. I'm glad I'm glad it went exactly the way it went, because I think it made me understand what he was saying even more.
That's cool. Yeah. So I guess we'll see how this impacts Milwaukee as we race for this close, tight-knit race for the 1 seed right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all goes together.